Welcome to OState Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, today we have a very special guest, very special to Oklahoma State fans, even more special to me because he is squarely a part of my childhood. Matt Clark, who was in the program from 79 to 83, part of that big 1983 team that made the NCAA tournament, joins OState Daily. Matt Clark, how are you, my man? It's an honor.
I'm doing good, Case. Thank you for having me, and go Pokes to all the fans out there listening.
Absolutely. So I actually had season tickets. My parents did. My whole family did. My uncle. And we were 3 seats over, same row and everything, from your mom. And I can remember her yelling the whole game, cheer, to the referees, the officials. It was absolutely awesome, man.
Well, were you there for when she jumped when we were playing at the Myriad, which is now Prairie Surf or whatever the hell it is, and she jumped over the rail.
Oh, really?
In a long skirt. She jumped over the rail and chased the referee down the side. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, no, that was embarrassing, but yeah.
So now you know how the boxer felt when the mom came in the ring with the shoe, right?
Oh, yeah, it was unbelievable. He just looked at her, and I may or may not had a dirty play, got hit somewhere where, as men, we all know that it's not the most enjoyable place to get hit.
Yeah.
And I'm on the floor looking up, and my mother's jumping over the rail, running down the court, chasing the referee down the court. I'm like, oh, my God. Yeah, what else is going to happen? So, anyway,
that is
wonderful woman.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, hey, this is a little bit before my time, so it's like one of those just kind of stories of legend and lore to me because it wasn't part of something I saw with my own eyes, but you're on the court for the half-court hand shot against Louisville, right?
Yes. He was 1 for 6 or 1 for 7. That was the only shot he made the whole game. Was that shot? And I was not on the court. I was. I fouled out. We played Louisville. I had 14 points in 14 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had 14 points in 14 minutes, and I fouled out. And he made that shot. And I was right there. It was right in front of our bench. I mean, so I know what he was doing. But yeah, actually, it was on the other end because at that time, our bench is where the opposing team's bench is now.
Yes.
That used to be the home bench. That was
okay.
Yeah, because our locker room was on the south side of Gallagher at that particular time.
Yeah. So back then, I mean, I know you're like 6'3", you're like, you have this football player type physique. So you played a lot of, I think we all remember you as the point guard dribbling the ball up the court, right? But
my senior
you played a lot of different positions at OSU, didn't you?
Yeah, I still think I'm the only player never to play the same position 2 years in a row. Yes, but my freshman year I played shooting guard. My sophomore year I played center. My junior year I played small forward. And my senior year I played point guard.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was funny that when Doug Gottlieb broke my record that I set in the only year that I ever played point guard, we were at the game, and after the game, we were all at Eskimo Joe's, and I said, went up to him and said, hey, man, congratulations, you broke my record. He goes, yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal, And I looked at him, I said, well, Doug, I go, what position did you play in life? Oh, you've only played point guard. I go, well, the year that I set the record that stood for 20 years that you broke, that's the only year I ever played point guard in my life. And he just kind of looked at me. Everybody started laughing. I go, so good job, bro. You're a great guy. You're a great player, Yeah. And also, no one ever backed off of me and said, you can shoot the ball.
Yeah.
That never happened to me.
Yeah.
I wish someone had said, hey, Matt, go ahead and shoot. We're not going to guard you. I wish that would have happened.
Yeah, and you didn't have a 3-point line back then either.
No, we did not.
I just remember that Princeton game. We hit like 15, 20-footers that would have all been 3-pointers that game.
Yeah, the Princeton game was see, the ironic part is Oregon State was the number 1 team in the country my senior year in high school. And I had originally committed to go to Oregon State. And it took me 15 hours to get home. And so I decommitted immediately when I got home. I go, if it takes me this long to get home. I sat in, I don't know if you're familiar with the old Stapleton Airport in Denver. Mm-hmm. I sat in there for 13 hours in the airport.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, so I said, I'm not going to your school. Yeah, I'm out. I left at 7:30 in the morning and got home at 12:30 a.m.
Wow.
And I'm 17.
That go to the other orange and black team, right?
Yes. And so it was ironic is that we played Princeton at Oregon State.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's ironic. Yeah, it was the irony of it because I had originally committed to go there. So I did stay with the Orange and Black, and both of them are OSU.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of ironic that happened.
I just have this burning, I don't know, it probably is a wrong memory, but I just have this like burned into my mind of you dribbling the ball up the court. It seemed like we were down 3 points.
Yes,
and you knew we couldn't hit it.
3 seconds left. The game was over.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no 3-point line. I mean, I just dribbled it up, frustration, and everybody's looking at me. I'm like, there's no 3-point play. It's I mean, how are we going to beat them? Oh, you want to lose by 1?
Yeah.
I mean, there was no 3-point play. Because if they had, I would have been intent on trying to shoot a 3-point shot or something. I'm sure they would have fouled us and put us on the line. I'm sure that's what would have happened. But yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I'm glad I have that right in my mind because I have that. That's been like just burned into my brain. Just that memory of watching you walk the ball up the court and just being so frustrated there wasn't, first of all, a 3-point line, because that's kind of right when they started talking about maybe instituting one and all those kinds of things. So that was a special team. 83. Joe Atkinson, of course, I got to see him several times at Coyle, and Leroy Combs, Lorenzo Andrews, Raymond Crenshaw, who I still think is the most underrated player ever to play
Probably
at
one
Oklahoma.
of the best defensive players ever to play at Oklahoma State.
Yeah. So I remember Lorenzo Andrews and the reverse layup in the finals game against Missouri, Steve Stepanovich and John Sunvolt. So tell us what you remember of those teams.
Well, us in Missouri, we did not like each other.
Yeah, right.
Steve Stepanovich, my sophomore year, I was the leading candidate for the Big 8 Player of the Year that year. And we're playing in Columbia, and the ball is going out of bounds. And I raise up to stop because their fans are not going to protect me from going into the stands. Okay, that's not happening. And I slowed up, and the ball was already out of bounds. I slowed up, and Steve Stepanovich rolled my ankle. And all he got was a reprimand. Oh, Coach Hansen turned that play in as a dirty play to get him suspended, and all he got was a reprimand. And he stretched my ankle, and from that point, we lost 6 out of our last 8.
Wow.
Yes,
I did not realize any of that.
Yeah. So that team was great, and then also my senior year, we got Joe Atkinson that year. My senior year, he got hurt in the Tulsa game. We were up 20, and somebody was at the stand to come in for him, and he went up to block a shot and came down and broke his wrist.
Golly.
And he missed the entire year. And I think had he not got hurt, that our team would have went far, because you had Leroy, you had him, you had Raymond. So our front line was ridiculous. And then you had Lorenzo and myself playing guard. So our defense, I mean, there was not a lot of scoring going on.
Lorenzo was an Oklahoma City boy. Leroy Combs, Oklahoma City boy. You're an Oklahoma City boy.
Yep.
Joe Atkinson's from Coyle. So not only was it like a great, talented team, but you guys had to be really tight-knit just because you're all from Oklahoma, right?
And we had Bill Self from Edmond. Yes. Bill was on that team as well. And, Hanson, being from OCU, Oklahoma City University, had an affinity for Oklahoma players. And he wanted the Oklahoma State team to be mirrored after Oklahoma City players or Oklahoma players. So that was his philosophy. And Jim Killingsworth, if he had maintained being the coach, who was the coach who recruited me, those guys would not have been on our team.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he would not have recruited those guys.
Wow. So you graduated 78 at Southeast, right?
Yes.
So do you remember any of the Putnam City teams with Alvin Adams and Steve McIntyre and Jim
They were
Warwick?
all older than me.
Yeah.
They were 71, 72, so I'm 11, 12 years old at that time. But I was familiar with Alvin at OU.
Yeah.
And remember, Darrell Johnson was also on that team, who was our coach, who ended up being our coach at Oklahoma State. His brother, Phil Johnson, played against him at Putnam City because that was back when the biggest tournament in the Christmas tournament was the tournament in Tulsa.
And the tournament champions?
Yes, and then also the Putnam City West tournament in Oklahoma.
Yes.
And we won that 4 straight years. And we tried to go to the champions tournament, but they said no. They wouldn't let us come up there. So we'd go up there and scrimmage, and we'd be up there for 2 days. We'd beat the hell out of Washington. We'd beat the hell out of Memorial. We'd beat the hell out of Tulsa Edison, and then we beat the hell out of whoever we had, who was Jinx or somebody, one other team. We had an easy team, but we'd beat Memorial, Booker T, Tulsa Edison were the teams that we primarily went up there to play, the scrimmage. And we just beat the brakes off of them because we couldn't play them during the year. So.
Yeah. That's a little bit before Wayman's time at Booker T, wasn't it?
Yeah, Wayman was a 8th grader. My senior year in high school, he was an 8th grader.
Yeah. I think Lorenzo was Millwood, and then Leroy was Star Spencer. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Bill was from Edmond.
Yeah.
Memorial, which at that time, remember, there was only one Edmond school. There was no North, there was no Santa Fe. It was just Memorial.
Yeah.
Which is why, a small point, that's why Wasso and all the Jinx schools, they don't separate. Because Edmond did it, then Norman did it, and Moore did it. And it deleted those because people forget how strong the Norman Tigers were back then, how strong the Moore Lions were back then, how strong the Edmond Memorial Bulldogs were back then. And they split up the schools to go to 3 different, and Jinx and all those schools said, no, we're not doing that. We'll just be mega schools. So that's why they would split up, because they wanted to continue to win. So I don't know if it's good or bad. The only good thing about it is you got more kids who had the ability to play than if you had all that talent in one school like they used to.
Yeah. Yeah, can you imagine if Carl Albert, Midwest City, and Del City all were one school?
Oh, wow. Well, Midwest City and Del City have always been separate.
Yeah.
And I think Carl Albert was separate too. But Carl Albert, when everything started going east, that's when they came to power. But what did they get? They got a coach.
Yeah, right.
You get a coach, players will come.
Yeah, no doubt. Who was your head coach at Southeast?
Dave Smith, who owned the Midwest Trophy.
Oh, nice. Okay, very good. Tell us a little about him.
He was the only white player in an all-black team in the 60s. Okay? He was 6'6", and my freshman year in high school, he broke one of the kids' legs on our team, dunking on him.
Oh, wow.
Dunking on him. He was practicing against him. So he was a hell of a guy. Rest in peace. Very smart, but he was very, very tough. I'll never forget, we played against John Marshall. I had 37 points in the game. I had 18 rebounds, 5-6 dunks. Come out of the game thinking I'm pretty good. Come in the locker room, he walks in and just totally goes, well, what did you think you had a good game? Yeah, coach. I'm feeling pretty good about what I did out there. And he broke down every mistake I made. That's how he was. Wow. He was constantly not letting you feel like you played good, that you always had room for growth, that you could get better. And that's the one redeeming quality in him that I will always remember, that he never allowed us to think we were good.
Yeah. Wow. So has the city scene there in Oklahoma City, is it way different now than it was back in the late 70s, early 80s?
Yeah. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
Players today, we're going to talk about the show today on the Unpopular Hour about the NBA All-Star Game and how it's deteriorated into what it is. And now how they're looking at adding, making it 3 teams and all that nonsense. And there's no competition because these guys are making business decisions. So to me, when you look at high school, kids are soft. College, kids are soft. Pros, kids are soft. I had a basketball academy. I have a basketball academy. And what I see is kids today are so coddled that they don't have to work. They just want to get to the league, make their money, and be done.
Right.
That's one of the things I love about Trae Young is Trae is constantly trying to improve his craft. He's constantly working at it. He's constantly trying to get better. And he's got, what he get paid, $190 million or whatever ridiculous, and he's not one of those guys who acts like I got paid, if that makes sense. But for the majority of the league, these guys, like LeBron, I just laugh. I'm just like, whatever, because he makes business decisions. Like Michael Jordan, I saw this stat. He had 9 years where he played every game.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
In today's game in Oklahoma, basketball is not the same. You might have 1 or 2 players. Even though there's more players and they play, there's more, AAU and there's all that stuff. But as far as the top quality players, there's not as many because Gary Vick, most people don't even know who this guy is. but he's one of the best coaches in the history of Oklahoma basketball. Pretty much every great player who's come through Oklahoma has played for him. And nobody knows who he is. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
That's crazy. I'm talking about the high school player, Wayman. Trey Young didn't play for him because he got hooked up with Trey to go somewhere else. But myself, he's had more. Do you know what the EYBL is, the Nike Youth Basketball League?
I do not know.
Okay, there's Nike, there's Adidas, there's Under Armour. They all have these different leagues that or youth leagues that they have. And top players are in each one. Nike obviously has the most. And then you've got Under Armour, you've got New Balance, and you've got Adidas coming in there. And Gary Vick, when he was with the Nike program for Athletes First, had more NBA players who came out of Oklahoma in his program than any other program over California, over New York, over Houston, over Texas, over North Carolina. He had more over Florida. He had more players that came out of his Oklahoma program than any other Nike program. So think about that for a minute. Oklahoma high school basketball is pretty good when you have, 14 guys that played for him that went to the NBA out of Oklahoma. That's pretty impressive.
That absolutely is. And one of the coach that you played for here at Oklahoma State, Paul Hansen, you mentioned him a minute ago, just kind of the outside looking in, seemed like a super nice guy. So talk about him.
Coach he had hearing aids. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah.
But he wore hearing aids. And when we were in the vans driving, he would turn his hearing aids down so he didn't have to listen to us.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
Because back then
awesome.
You'd have 6-8 guys in a van. We'd have 2 vans. You'd have 6 guys in one van. And you'd have 4 or 5 guys in the other van along with the athletic trainer and, sports information director and all that. So they'd be in the other van. And kind of like what they do now, except everybody's in planes.
Yeah.
Instead of vans. And he was a great guy. And in fact, Woody Johnson was a great referee. I got a tech, and he had been refereeing since I was in high school. And he gave me a tech, and Coach Hansen looked at him. He goes, Woody, you gave Matt a tech? What did he do? He didn't say it because I had laryngitis at that time. I couldn't talk. I had laryngitis at this particular game. And he looked at me, he goes, Coach, you should understand, I read his lips. And
oh.
So yeah, I may or may not have said something, and he just turned around and looked at me, and I apologized to Woody after the game. I respect the man, but I was just pissed off, so yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned you have a podcast talking about mainly the Thunder, but a lot of NBA topics. You talked about it a minute ago, but is there any resentment that you only got the 1 year playing point guard at Oklahoma State as far as maybe that hurt your NBA career chances?
It hurt my chances, but at the time when the original coach that got me there, Randy Wright, who was our original point guard, who was the player of the year in 77. I was the player of the year in 78, okay? And at that point, he was passing me the ball, and I was the scorer.
Yeah.
And then when Hansen came in, he put me in the center because, we didn't have – Leroy wasn't ready yet at that time. He was young. He wasn't ready to accept that role as an inside presence. So Hansen put me in the middle. That was the year that I was winning the Big 8 and player of the year, and I lost. I ended up being a runner-up because I got hurt. Then after that, I just never played the same position. And when Hansen came in there, my sophomore year, remember he had, what did he have, like leukemia or something with his white blood cell? Remember he didn't coach almost that whole year. Wayne Ballard and oh God, what's the coach's name? I can't think of his name right now. Those were our 2 coaches that year. And then my senior year, John Gray, our coach, came in and said, hey, you need to put Matt at the point guard because he needs the ball in his hands. And that's how I ended up playing point guard. That way the ball would be in my hands. They couldn't double team me because I was point guard.
Oh, fantastic. So, Leroy Combs, he was in the area coaching-wise, and Joe Atkinson is back in the Coyle area. Not sure about Lorenzo Andrews, but do you guys keep in touch quite a bit? Yeah,
Lorenzo is in Dallas now. He went to work for, I think, either Bank One or Chase years and years and years ago out of college. And, of course, we have the OSU basketball reunion that's coming up. I think it's January 31st. The first. When do we play? I want to say we played Kansas State or UCF or something on February 1st. I don't know if you have the schedule there, but
I don't. Not in front of me.
Whoever we played, that basketball reunion. So everybody comes back to that, or they did last year was one of the worst reunions we had. It was terrible. Last year there was no enthusiasm. I think it's because everybody knew that Coach Boynton was on his way out.
Yeah.
And Doug Gottlieb came, and he was basically took the thing over, and it was just a joke.
Oh, really?
It was a joke. So
wow.
But Leroy comes back, Lorenzo comes back, everybody pretty much comes back for that, except for last year. There was all we had was all the old guys from the 60s and 50s and 60s that are still living, and the 70s. That's pretty much all you had.
So Paul Hansen quits being the coach there somewhere early to mid 80s.
Yeah,
and then Leonard Hamilton comes in. What do you remember about that transition and that time of OSU basketball?
I wasn't a fan of Leonard Hamilton. One of the first things he said to me was, I watch you guys, and you guys were just pretty much athletic and fast. I was like, wow. We weren't fundamentally sound? That's kind of interesting. Because you never won as many games as we did, so which he said at the time. But I wasn't a fan of him, and his teams played the same way. They're athletic, but they have no fundamentals. They don't. At the end of games, when things need to be made, he does not make great coaching decisions. So I wasn't a big fan of his at all. And then when Eddie came in, I'm gonna give you a little story. After my freshman year, we got beat. I'm in California. This is
1979?
This is the spring of 79.
Yeah.
On spring break. And back then, there were no cell phones or anything like that. So you had to call collect if you wanted to talk to your parents out of state, okay, or out of the city. So I'm reading the LA Times, and there's an article in there, Jim Killingsworth, head coach at Oklahoma State, leaves and goes to TCU. And I'm like, what? My coach is gone? What are you talking about? And so I call home or whatever, and I fly home like 2 days later. My mom is like, oh, well, I was like, well, what am I going to do? They go, oh, well, you're going to Arkansas. I said, I'm doing what? They go, oh, that nice coach, Coach Sutton, he came into town, and he is so nice, and we think you're going to now transfer to Arkansas. Wait, what? Yeah. He came in when Jim Killingsworth left before Paul Hansen was hired and had convinced my parents to send me to Arkansas.
Wow.
Yeah. And so Eddie we laugh about that to this day. So until he passed away. But he's laughing. He goes, if you listen to me, you'll still be in the NBA today. I go, yeah, coach. I'll be 50 years old playing in the NBA. Yeah. Well, you should have came to Arkansas. Okay, coach, you're now at Oklahoma State. You should have came to Oklahoma State, which is where I was. But
yeah,
it's funny.
Get to play with Sidney Moncrief, right?
No, Sidney was gone. It would have been me and U.S. Reed.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah.
Sidney was gone, and that triplets that he had, they were already gone. And, of course, he left right after that and went to Kentucky.
Any regrets on any decisions you made or anything that went on with you?
No, I mean, the people that I met at Oklahoma State were unbelievable. A lot of them are still my friends today. I still wonder sometimes had I stayed at Oregon State, what would have happened, them being the number one team in the country. Had I left the state, but I don't regret it. I mean, whatever decisions you make in life make you to be the person that you are today. Mm-hmm. So the lessons I learned, I'm a little frustrated. People at OU said, I should have went to OU, but remember at that time, OU was a football school, not really a basketball school. They were trying to come on. Dave Bliss was the coach. Mm-hmm. And they ended up winning the Big Eight my freshman year, by the way, with Al Bill and that whole group, and Terry Stotts, who was the coach at, the Portland Trail Blazers forever. But the thing about Oklahoma State, I tell everybody, Oklahoma State, the people are fun, are friendly. You have a great education. You have a great time. You can be yourself. You can be relaxed. You don't have to be somebody that you're not. And most of all, in college, those people are going to be your lifelong friends. Mm-hmm. You still have some of the friends in high school, but in college, that's where all your friendships are really bonded, born, and learn to flourish. And I have 4 of my best friends today. I all were best friends in college.
Beyond the Eddie half-court Hannon shot, what's the craziest memory you have of Gallagher Arena? Actually, it's Gallagher Hall.
Playing Kansas in triple overtime my sophomore year. And I don't know if there's pictures around there somewhere. And Gallagher Iowa, there has never been more packed than I. Because remember back then, students would just come in. The whole bottom row was all students. The whole bottom section was all students. General admission, first come, first serve. And students would hang out outside, okay, and have tents and stuff to get in. And we played Kansas. I think they were the number 3 or 4 team in the country at that time. And us beating them in triple overtime. And Leroy Combs' dunk.
Yeah.
Was that year? I want to say that was, well, no, Leroy was there. Who was it? I forget what it was. It was something that happened. And Victor Mitchell, who was shooting like 40% from free throw line, banked 2 free throws and sent it into the third overtime.
Yeah.
That's my greatest.
Seemed like somebody from Kansas missed 2 free throws, too.
No, he made the 2 free throws. I think I scored, or Randy Wright scored to put us up 2. We fouled him, and he banked 2 free throws.
Okay.
Banked them off the backboard. And he was shooting 40%. So we were like, if you're going to foul somebody, this is the perfect guy. We're going to win this game. And I want to say they were ranked 4th or 5th in the country at that time at Gallagher Iowa. So the half-court shot was nice, but the three overtime game to me, because of how packed it was, how smoky it was, the lights and just everything was just to me is better.
What's it like as a former player that's seen the old Gallagher Hall? You saw the Gallagher Iowa since it's been renovated at its best and at its loudest. What's it like for somebody like you seeing the way that it's not attended now?
Well, that's Travis Ford. That was our AD did that. Travis Ford, because remember, we had a 13-year waiting list until he took over as coach. And within 2 years, you were selling, and still are, advertising seats in the paper, Daily Oklahoma. So to me, it's just hard because the fall of Oklahoma State basketball from what it was to Rise football to be what it is it was a travesty to me. A travesty.
Yeah.
That's something that I don't get because most people don't understand what Gallagher Iowa was like with 5,000 fans.
Yeah.
And most people don't understand what it was like with 13,000. Then you get Underwood, who comes in. You have 2 sellouts that you hadn't had in 7 years, and then you don't pay him.
Yeah.
And he leaves and goes to Illinois. So those are the frustrations that I have with Oklahoma State athletics is that, being around being in Oklahoma City, being around a lot of OU people, the way that OU people look at athletics and the way that OSU people look at athletics are not the same administration-wise. It's just not.
Yeah.
You would think this is the difference between Castiglione and our former AD. Castiglione hires the best coaches because every sport is important that you win because it looks good for the overall university. Our former AD only wanted football to win because of the person that was putting in all the money. And like I've always said, no matter how great OSU football is, they've yet to have a complete sellout of their facility, ever. You had Thurman Thomas and Barry Sanders. You couldn't fill it up.
Yeah.
OU in basketball, you had Wayman Tisdale, you had Blake Griffin, you had Trey Young. You still couldn't fill it up. And OSU is a basketball university, football second. OU is a football factory, basketball second. It's never, no matter how many you win, no matter what you do, that's never going to change. And they tried to change the culture, and it just doesn't work. And it's frustrating to me as a basketball player, going from when we filled it up to Eddie Sutton filling it up, to Sean filling it up, to getting Underwood to refill it so people could get back. Because you remember what it was like. It was loud. I mean, your ears were ringing. It was loud.
Yeah.
It was loud. That place gets rocking. And
it's amazing.
And it's just frustrating to me for the young kids who never had a chance to experience what that's like. When it's rocking, when it's packed, you can't sit. There's nowhere to sit. It's the game is tight. Like when we played Texas, remember when Eddie was the coach, we'd be playing Texas. We the 4th ranked team. They're the 5th ranked team, but we're playing Kansas. They're number 1. We're number 3. It's kids today. I feel sorry for them. They have no idea what Gallagher Iowa is truly, truly like when it's rocking.
How connected do you stay to the program?
I met Coach Lutz. I went up there and watched practice. Love his addition.
Yeah.
I think that we've got some good players, just not enough talented players.
Yeah.
But I love their work ethic. I love these players. They play hard. I love what they're doing. And we're, 4-1? Or 4-2? What are we, 4-2?
Yeah, we lost a couple times over the weekend.
I think we're 4-2, or 3-2, or 4-2. And so I'm really proud. I can't wait to watch them play the Sooners in, the 14th here at Paycom. So I can't wait to go there. We are going to that game. And then I was thinking about going up and watching the Tulsa game.
Nice. All right, man. So, hey, fill us in from the time that we've seen you dribbling a basketball on the hallowed grounds of Gallagher Hall, and now. But what has Matt Clark been doing?
Well, I started a basketball academy. I was doing a lot of stuff involved in sports, clearly, because of my background. And then I started my basketball academy in 2010, and I've been doing that 15 years. And then started a daily sports show called The Unpopular Hour, which we talk about all kinds of sports, mainly NBA basketball and football. And I don't really talk about OSU football because there's nothing to really talk about. but we talk about the Big 12 and talk about all the things. It's just sports related. And then we have another show that I do called After the Storm, which is the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's a post-game analysis show, and we talk about the Thunder, what happened. And like I said, last night we went for 2 hours. And normally our shows are around an hour and 15 minutes or so. And we're getting more of a following, and people are starting to come in. And because you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. So you can make comments on the YouTube Live. It's on YouTube and Facebook. But I tell everybody, go to YouTube because I can't see what you're commenting on Facebook. So you got to go to YouTube. And we have a good show. We had a good following last night with questions and my views as an old school basketball player. I don't really, my co-host, he gets mad because he goes, I used to enjoy watching basketball. Now I don't because you've got me watching the little intricacies of things that are going on and I can't enjoy the game anymore. And I go, well, that's part of understanding how games are played. So that's what I've been doing. And I still have my basketball academy. And that's my one gift of God is my ability to talk to kids and to get them to flip that switch. Because to me, there's no greater feeling in life than watching a kid when the light bulb comes on and they're like, oh, that's what you meant. Yes, you have it. And that was, I know my coaches, Coach Smith, Coach Hanson, well, they felt the same way about as a coach. It's nice when your kid or your person actually does what they need to do and that light switch come on and they get it. So as a coach, as a mentor, there's nothing greater than that. So basically that's what I've been doing is mentoring kids and just trying to educate people about the ins and outs of basketball.
Matt Clark, this has been a wonderful honor. I tell people all the time, if there was a 3-point line back in the late 70s, early 80s, you would have scored like 1,000 more points. Because,
I would have scored way more points, Bills all would have. You know what's so funny? I'm going to tell you this quick story. Randy Rutherford.
Yes.
He's 1 point behind me on the all-time scoring list.
With a 3-point shot.
With the 3-point line. Yeah. And I tease him about that. When I see him, I go, hey, Randy. He gets pissed off because I hold up the one finger.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome. What were you, 10 years older than him or so?
But he's probably the greatest outside shooter we've ever had, I think.
Yeah.
I think he's our greatest 3-point shooter we've ever had at Oklahoma State. That's just me. I know we've had some good ones, but, when the clutch time was on, nobody shot it like him.
Mm-hmm. That game he had against Kansas, I think he scored 43 points, and Big Country had a big donut, right?
A donut, yes. And by the way, I want to say this. I want to shout out to Bill Self, and I hope you continue to lose to Oklahoma State when you come to Colorado.
And you can say that as a good friend, right?
Well, we're really good friends. I've known Bill since he was 11 years old. So by the way, his dad was an amazing person. Bill Self Sr., love his sister, Shelly, his mom, love his whole family.
Yeah, absolutely awesome. Matt Clark, this has been just a wonderful honor. Thank you so much for joining OState Daily.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you.